Hello, everyone, and welcome to, I believe, episode 12 of Lesbian Talk.
This time.
Hmm?
This time, yes, it is 12. You were right.
Yeah, I am always fucking right about these sorts of things. Do not go back and listen to the rest of the podcast. You can believe me or your lying ears.
No, she's never right about anything. Just don't believe the hype.
I'm right about everything.
Okay.
Okay, our word of the week last week was punitive.
As in to punish the shit out of. Okay, that's not really in the dictionary, but you know what I mean.
That's pretty much.
You get the idea.
Yeah. So, this is tangentially related, but last night I discovered that a whopping 40 out of the 50-something countries in the Commonwealth, formerly the British Commonwealth, punish you for, put you in jail for being gay. Some of them kill you. I didn't realize, I realized that some of them did that because some countries in the Commonwealth are full of shit on this matter.
No offense or nothing, but why didn't Parliament or the Queen or anybody say anything about that until now? Were they just hoping the rest of the world and the EU wouldn't notice?
Well, the Queen and Parliament have no full-on say about what other countries in the Commonwealth do.
Bullshit. They could use economic sanctions and stuff. Be like, oh, you gonna be like that? Well, you get no money ever.
No, the Commonwealth, the way that the Commonwealth works, is sort of like a mutually beneficial thing. So then they'll just leave the Commonwealth,
Well, good then.
which
You don't.
honestly I would be fine with, but it's not what other ones are going for.
Well, I'm just really shocked that this has been going on, and you guys are like, we're totally in the EU and we human rights and shit,
Well,
except for
the
secret
UK
society.
is the UK is in the EU. The rest of the Commonwealth isn't.
But they're your peoples. You control
They're,
them.
no, we don't.
But then what?
They don't. They have the same head of state, but they're not the same. They're not the same country. They have their own government.
Yeah, but then why have a relationship with you guys if there's nothing going on? There's still stuff that you could do to be punitive to them, to use our word.
Well, what the Queen is doing is, announced yesterday, the Queen's going to do this big charter, which is going to have a little bit of impact, basically saying that in the Commonwealth, it is bad shit to discriminate on a lot of grounds. And they actually didn't say homosexuality, but they came close enough to saying homosexuality to irritate fundamentalist Christians in the West. I hate to think what the fundamentalist people who are in these countries are going to think about it.
We're totally not amused, not going to put up with this bullshit anymore.
And so they'll be annoyed at it. But the
Yeah, but you
reason.
can say we're not going to tolerate this. Is there anything to actually back it up?
That's what tolerate it is saying that the Commonwealth is opposed to it as a matter as a rule thing, that it is opposed to it. It might sound like a tiny and laughable little thing, but it's actually quite a big thing.
I see.
The reason that all these countries have such homophobic rules, but most of them by far most of them, they have them because of the British. When the British took over, they brought British rules, and British rules included these rules. And when the British left, the rules stayed.
Well, that
The,
wasn't very smart, was
their
it?
country's rules were based on British rules at the time when the British were there. Like America's first rules were based on British law of the 1770s.
Yeah, well, can't you just use reverse psychology to goad them into dropping them? "Pfft, yeah, good job. You guys are so still slave colonists. Just saying. Nuh-uh, we're not. We're free and everything. We're, recognized by the UN. Yeah, whatever. You're still following old English laws. Psh. Well, fine, now we're not. Yeah, whatever.
Unfortunately, a lot of people of the fundamentalist Christian variety, especially ones in the States who go to Africa to to stir up shit, like to claim that the British influence to try and make them less homophobic is actually a new form of colonialism. And these groups who are homophobic have somehow convinced themselves that African identity, it's primarily in Africa, not always, is inextricably linked to homophobia, even though it was the British that forced homophobic rules on their country. And, African society, because it is mostly in Africa, this sort of shit, those things did not happen. If you look, there's books written about, pre European colonial Africa and how they are not homophobic societies.
Well, you guys done cocked it up, didn't you?
Yes, all the European powers gave, shat on these people who, in many ways, were superior to them ethically, and we still have to live with the shit. I agree. The UK has done a fuckload of shit in the past.
Well, will this charter really do anything, though?
It's a step, and it will, at least on a subconscious level, force the governments of those countries, hopefully, to realise that if they want to stay in the Commonwealth, they're going to be on the opposite side of the Queen, which
And, well, I read in the article that Richard Branson was involved, too, and he's got, like, tons and tons of money, so maybe they just don't want to get on the bad side of Richard Branson.
maybe he did discover tubular bells after all. But I'm not expecting anytime soon for, these places which are homophobic because of stupid white people to stop being homophobic. I'm not expecting it. Not anytime soon. Hopefully this is a little step in the right direction.
I'm just saying it kind of seems like lip service if there's nothing to back it up. Like if, there's no,
The UK,
sanctions come with it.
the UK doesn't rule these people. The Commonwealth is an arrangement between a bunch of different countries. It used to be, the last wee while they even got rid of the term British from it, therefore
Right.
removing the fact that the UK is in charge of it.
Well,
The UK is just a part of it.
Yeah, the Americans in the UN don't own other countries either. But, the words economic sanctions are awfully damn powerful.
We can't economically sanction them because
Yes.
the Commonwealth, it's there's various little things it does, including trading and stuff. But if the UK stops trading with one of the nations of the Commonwealth, they'll trade with other nations. The point of a UN sanction is that everyone in the UN can't trade with them. So it's
Well, yeah, I'm still not seeing. I mean, that's cool, go the Queen, but I'm still not seeing how this is anything more than lip service. I mean, no offense or nothing. Because David Cameron, didn't he threaten Uganda before, and they were like, well, then fuck you. And he was like, sorry.
Well, they can leave if they want. You might think it's just lip service, but this has irritated, the American Family Association. Anything that annoys the American Family Association is slightly more than lip service.
Oh, honey, a Sears commercial irritates the American
Yes,
Association.
that's more than lip service. It might not be a massive deal. It might be hard to explain why it might be in some contexts a massive deal, but it doesn't. But it's annoyed the American Family Association, and that itself is a perfectly valid end point by itself. Those cunts deserve to be annoyed all the time.
I don't know. I'm at the point where I'm like too little, too late. I want my revolution and I want it now. I mean, like I said, and I'm really glad that the Queen felt strong enough to kind of commit this taboo of speaking politically. And I mean, good for her. That's really awesome. But, at the same time, it doesn't make anyone's life easier tomorrow. You know?
Doesn't make either of our lives easier. It might make a couple of people in those countries' lives easier, by a tiny bit.
Maybe.
Now, I hate to mention, I hate to put it quite this way, but not everything that's big news in the world affects either of us.
Well, no, but what I'm saying is that, like, all right, if you're gay in some African nation, and it's on TV, look what the Queen said, you're still might be drug out of your house and burned tomorrow, you know?
Yeah. On the other hand, it helps positively affect the culture slightly.
Well, I hope so.
I hope so too. Neither of us can know all ends.
True.
Wow, we got heated, didn't we?
A bit, yeah.
Do you want to get a nice sort of celebration early? Rawr, rawr, rawr.
Is that like at the end of Okami or not the end, but in Okami when you beat a boss, and Isun says, "Let's have one of those victory howls."
Never played a kami or come across it, but yes, let's do that.
I tried to, and I was like, "Look at this game, isn't it awesome?" And you were like, "Hush, dear, I'm watching Bone Kickers or something."
Was I watching Bone Kickers?
No, you're probably doing Urban Gothic at that point in time.
Yeah, it must have been like Urban Gothic or Adam Adamant, because I don't think I ever did any Bone Kickers reviews while I was at yours.
No, you probably didn't.
But rawr, howl, victory, ah.
Howl. Rar. As you so succinctly clipped in your Island of Dr. Moreau video.
I'm sorry you weren't in that. I really wish I could have put you in there.
I was in it. I was behind the camera the whole time.
Yeah, but playing the same minion from Poultrygeist.
Yeah, but there weren't any minions at all, though. It was
Well,
a non-minion episode.
well, there was one minion bit that was cut out because we were running behind because of the filming issues.
Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot about that. That's true.
But anyway, the first thing we're going to talk about right now, after we have finished the word punitive, is we are going to discuss The Wizard of Oz, because a few days ago Oz the Great and Powerful came out. Now, neither of us have seen it, and I'm hoping to see Oz on Tuesday. By the time this goes up, you will either be able to go to my WordPress and look at a vlog, or go to my WordPress and see no vlog for Oz the Great and Powerful, because I don't know if I'm going to see it or not. But we're going to talk about the various other Wizard of Oz things.
Well, actually, I wanted to mention that I read this morning that it took in a really big weekend. So they're thinking they might be able to do a new franchise off of it, which is going to piss off a lot of purists, but I don't really care.
Well, from looking at the reviews, I think it'll piss off more than just the purists.
Though I wasn't. I mean, I know some. I've heard some people have some views about it, but I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah,
My friend Killian liked it.
well, good for him.
Her.
Oh, sorry, her. Most of the reviews I've seen haven't been very positive.
Well, according to the story this morning, it opened to a very good opening. They said the best one so far this year, which for it being early spring, that's pretty good. So they'll franchise what makes money. So they said there could be a possible franchise in it.
Disney's going to get another cash cow franchise. They already have Marvel and Star Wars and their own and Pixar.
Well, I mean, if the movies end up being good, why begrudge it?
No, I'm just wondering. Well, at this point, someone might as well let Disney start printing their own money.
Speaking of which, they already do.
Oh dear.
Like, no, if you years and years and years ago on our the band trip when I was a senior, we went to Disney World. If you go as part of a group, usually what they'll do, whoever puts it together, is you can buy like Disney dollars that you can spend like money with like vendors and stuff like that, which is kind of cool. Especially if you got a huge high school marching band, you can say, okay, everyone get your Disney dollars. It's time for lunch now, and everyone goes off and has lunch, which is kind of cool.
I can definitely see a possible future where Disney is nuclearly capable. Like they might actually form their own country or something.
That would be. I don't think that would ever happen. I could see them having a reactor at some point, like, to power a complex, but.
Would that complex be complex?
What? No.
Not wouldn't be. I thought nuclear reactors were very complex.
Listen, I'm gonna reach across the computer internet and slap you in the face.
Well, that would be called spousal abuse.
No, it wouldn't, because no, we're not recognized by the federal government.
But
So you'd have to come to Maryland or D.C. to have me prosecuted, and then I would win because you would be in Maryland or D.C.
but your fist would be in the UK.
Well, I'd pull it back afterwards.
Yeah, but the action would have happened in the UK. It would be an
Yeah, but
American citizen breaking a law in the UK.
no, but it's over my bandwidth though.
Yeah, but your hand would be physically in the UK. So it would be UK law, and gay marriage is recognized by foreign gay marriages are recognized by the UK.
Yeah, but then you'd have to have me extradited to be prosecuted, then I'd end up in your country anyway.
Yeah, this would totally be the worst thing possible, wouldn't it?
Well, something like that. You just like to make fun of me.
I'm not making fun of you. I'm hoping that our banter makes for entertaining listening. Write down in the comments if we're succeeding or not.
Are we interesting? Write the show and let us know.
But The Wizard of Oz. Obviously you got the famous one from the 30s, but it's actually not the first Wizard of Oz adaptation. The first
It's
one.
not?
No, the first one I believe was 1916. It was a silent one. There were a number of silent versions, and the 3-disc Wizard of Oz DVD that you can get, which I have a copy of, actually has as an extra feature one of the silent movies.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
We had this whole big, huge special collection box set that came out at the store years ago for its like 75th anniversary. Didn't sell as well as I think everyone thought it was going to.
Oh.
Well, I guess the thing is, if you like the movie, you already have it. So it was kind of like catering to like super fans, I guess.
Or just film nerds in general, like I am, because I.
Yeah, you have the 3 disc set, but you have like the whole special edition tin with all of the little treats and prizes that came with it.
Oh no, I don't have that. I've just. There's only a couple of things which I have like that. Like I have the Phantasm set and Transformers Generation One and Hellraiser stuff like that. The
Oh.
Universal Monsters 1930s set.
Well, I guess that you guys don't feel like the same way that we do about the Wizard of Oz. It's not like, is it a classic over there?
It's considered a classic, but maybe it's not. People aren't don't seem to be obsessed with it.
Some people are pretty obsessed with it, even though that was like a way long time ago that it came out.
The I think it's a good film, and it's a very very important film.
Well, wasn't it like pretty much groundbreaking technology at the time? Like I've heard that when audiences saw when it came into Technicolor, everyone was like, "Oh shit got real now."
Yeah, it's like it was far from the first color film, but color was still new enough that it was a big shock because when it went from sepia.
Because nobody expected it.
Yeah, it was a very good use of the technology. They're doing something similar apparently with Oz, where they start off with black and white, all sepia tones, and they being filmed in 4:3, but then when you hit Oz, it turns into a widescreen.
Oh, that's neat.
Yep, which is so it's like it's the same idea as the what happened in the 30s, but they've sort of taken it one level up. What they possibly should have done, at least for the 3D releases, is actually keep it 2D until they hit Oz.
Oh yeah, that's a good idea. Although I don't like 3D.
I'm not a big fan of it. I'll be fine with it when it can work just as well, regardless of where I'm sitting and whether I'm wearing glasses or not.
Yeah, because I wanted to go see The Hobbit. Like if I was like, "Oh, I'm tired. I'll rest my head on my wife's shoulder." Oh no, everything went out of sync. Oh God, now it's an acid trip.
Yeah, it's like it's I'm not obsessively opposed to 3D, but the technology is not there yet to be as good as to make me a fan per
I
se. But I am a fan of new technology in film though. Like the 48 frames, the more I think about it, the more I like it, as at least as an option for filmmakers.
So would you say that The Hobbit in 48 frames was our generation's technological Wizard of Oz?
Um, Not quite. 48 frames hasn't taken off. It wasn't. It's honestly, this is going back and just purely into The Hobbit, but I don't think The Hobbit was the right film to show off 48 frames because for The Hobbit being one of the good things about 48 frames is it shows reality very well. That if you're running through a real place, it looks really good, but if you've got places that are done on sets, then it fucks up. Um, so The Hobbit was not the right place for it. Plus, The Hobbit being the fourth in 6 films, so you've already got the rest of the films done in this other way. Why change it halfway through? But
Because he could, said Peter Jackson.
that's true. He could. But I like 48 frames. I just don't think that maybe it shouldn't have been The Hobbit that used it. But back to Wizard of Oz. The ruby slippers were not actually in the original book.
I did know that they were silver slippers, actually.
Yep. And whenever I think it was Disney made Return to Oz, because I recall Disney attempted to get the rights to Wizard of Oz the book very early on. They failed though, and then the rights went to someone else, and then Disney started making them in public when they went into the public domain. That's when you got films like Return to Oz.
Hmm.
But when Disney made Return to Oz, the ruby slippers were not in the public domain, so they had to pay. What was it, Warner Brothers, who owned the rights,
I think it's MGM, right?
or MGM? They had to pay MGM the rights, to use the ruby slippers. And if you've seen my Mama vlog, you will know full well that I think Return to Oz is the best film with the word Oz in the title ever.
I only have vague memories of watching it, but I remember not liking it. I remember having a very strong early negative connotation to the memory.
I'm guessing it's at least partially due to your age when you saw it.
Yeah, I was a little teeny kid.
Yeah, it's one of those films that is brilliant if you want to terrify a child,
Oh,
which, to be fair, is something I think is great.
we're never having children, you realize. I will not allow you to torture our children.
Okay, can I terrify the cat?
Okay. I just don't want to, like, come home from, like, being at, like, some publishing convention or something like that, and, the kids, our hypothetical children, are like, Other mom, you're home, thank God. And I'm like, what happened? Did she cook? No, we watched movies. I haven't slept in days. And they'll be like, what? And I'm just like, no, that's
I'm
not.
like, and I'm like, I only showed them Chirpy.
We'll probably show them where the dead go to die.
No, Dead Gonna Die. I don't suggest people watch. If someone comes to me and goes, Mistress Hagen, I have seen all of the evil of cinema, but yet I crave more. What do you suggest? Like happened at Magfest. Then I'll tell them to watch Where the Dead Go to Die. Generally, I'll give them information, maybe let them see the trailer, and I'll tell them not to watch it because, frankly, most people wouldn't be able to handle it.
I'm just saying.
It'll hurt people. And I like coming up, finding stuff that is bizarre and stuff, but I don't want to hurt people.
I can, like, hear your smile as you're saying that. Everyone knows you're evil for reals.
But I don't want to hurt people. You think I want to hurt people? That's not fair.
See? You made the cat jump up on something and make noise.
Do you recall, as a child, there was the animated Return to Oz as well, which I don't know who made, but it was terrible. And there was, last few years, there was a couple of new adaptations. There was Muppets Wizard of Oz, which I remember watching with 20 minutes of and deciding, fuck this, and put on a decent Muppet film like Muppets Take Manhattan.
Well, I think some of the Muppet stuff that happened after Jim Henson died was really good, but I think a lot of his vision is missing sometimes. Now, granted, I haven't seen the newest Muppet movie, which apparently everyone says is gold, so.
Well, it's so gold that Frank Oz refused to play Miss Piggy because he hated the script.
Oh. Yeah, but everybody loved it, though. Like, Twitter was aflame for months about it.
Yeah, I saw a lot of positive reviews. I also saw ones which basically, which were negative in the sense that it really did not understand. I think the consensus I noticed was while as a film it's good, it really fucks up various sections of Muppetiness
Oh, well.
and some characters.
Although, you know what? I didn't see the Muppet Wizard of Oz, but I would totally watch a film adaptation of the musical of Wicked. And a lot of people have been saying that in the media, apparently.
I would totally watch it as well, and if we ever get to London, which we will, and if Wicked is one of the shows that's on in the West End, I am totally taking you.
Oh. And see, the thing is, I have the soundtrack. I downloaded it from iTunes years ago. But I've never actually seen the show, but I have read the book. And the reason I want to see the show is apparently it's a lot less bleak and it ends differently than the book. Kipper, stop it. He's
Kipper's
determined to make as much noise as possible today.
Kippers is awake, everyone. We actually do have a cat.
He's creeping around the chair. Now he's hopping down. There he goes. And now he's going over to hop up onto his chair to sleep, so you probably shouldn't have said that.
Oh.
But, I mean, Wicked was actually the first book that I borrowed when I first started working at the bookstore. Because it had just come out in hardcover then, and it really was selling amazingly well. And I was like, well, this looks good. Maybe I'll read it. And McGuire, as an author, I'll say this: he's able to he's a wonderful world builder. Like has a wonderful grasp of political science and sociology, and he does write extremely well when he's writing as a world builder. But as a character author, oh dear God, like none of his characters are likable. They're irredeemable. There's nothing you can empathize with. They all have very realistic character flaws, but like even the witch, who was the main character of the book, I couldn't empathize with. Like I was naturally rooting for her because she's the main character, but that was the only reason. Like I knew what was going to happen at the end because spoilers, the witch dies at the end of The Wizard of Oz. But I just kept reading because I was like, well, something. I mean, this has got to be, there'll be some kind of emotional payoff, and there really never was. And then I read Son of a Witch, which is about her son, and he's a douchebag. He's like the worst protagonist ever. But again, I kept reading because the world was and not it was not a happy world, but it was so incredibly detailed, and I had to admire that as a fellow world builder. And I finally got to the end of Son of a Witch, and I was like, oh, thank God. And then when Lion Among Men came out, I got 2 chapters into it, and I said, fuck this shit. Oh God, the Cowardly Lion is like the worst narrator ever. Oh my God, it was so horrible. And Out of Oz is out, and it's out in paperback now. And I'm like, I really should, but I'm so tempted to just Google the synopsis. Because I just, oh my God, that book.
Whenever you described, like, all of the characters as so unlikable and horrible people, I just got flashbacks to you reading that script that I wrote.
Yeah, you'd probably like it.
You absolutely hated the characters in that.
Well, you know what I would who was I think Noah and Dresden? No, somebody else was talking on Twitter about it, and I got in a conversation with them and someone else, like I think Chandel and Noah about it. And I would describe trying to get through Maguire's books with the Yahtzee Croshawism drinking wallpaper paste, because that's what it was like. You just had to slog through it. I mean, I'm sure he's a nice enough guy in person, although I've heard he's very short.
Well, to be fair, honey, so are you.
Yeah, I know, but I was at when I worked at the store down in D.C. One of the people that I worked with had been at another store in a different part of the country, and they had hosted him for a signing, and he said, you know what, he was kind of short. And I was like, really? And he's like, yeah.
Huh.
So there you go. These are the interesting facts that you learn from listening to Lesbian Talk.
Yes, and just because it's only fair, I am not short, I am freakishly tall.
I wouldn't say freakishly, because my cousins are taller than you.
I'm about 8 inches over average.
Yeah. Well, no, because that's helpful. Because then when you visit me, you can get things off of the high shelves that I can't reach, and I just don't bother with.
Yes, that's weird. Like, I forget what's up there. It might be goblins. I don't know.
It might be goblins. It's probably Tupperware.
Yes.
Like, I used to have this great little electric hand mixer, and I think I left it in the apartment in D.C. in the kitchen because it was, like, my last memory of it is it being up high, so I think it was just too high, and I forgot about it when I moved out.
Well, back to the subject of Wizard of Oz for a little bit. The other sort of modernish adaptation, there was like an asylum level version that came out a couple of years ago.
Oh, is it that one on Sci-Fi that was, like, really, really bad?
Maybe. See, there was one which I think was a movie, and there was one which definitely wasn't sci-fi, and it was sort of steampunk.
Okay.
The steampunk one featured, like, Alan Cumming as the Scarecrow, who had no brain. He had a zip across his forehead so he could open up his head and rip his brain out, and he could do martial arts and stuff, and it wasn't good.
Oh.
It was not good.
He was the guy that was in Burner Than Genie, right?
Yeah.
The only Scottish voice actor ever?
I have no idea.
No, because you said I asked who Alan Cumming was, and you were like, oh, well, you know how they need a Scottish voice. Usually, it's him. So I've decided he's the only Scottish voice actor.
Huh, fair enough. Though weirdly these days, because Alan Cumming, he does primarily works in America. He usually uses either an English or American accent.
Does he do a good American accent, or does he do BBC American accent?
No, he does a fine American accent. Like, he's played Americans in everything from, like, Burlesque to Romeo and Michelle's High School Reunion.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good then.
Um,
Probably because he's a voice actor, because so he can do like an accent. He's not like, "Hi everyone, I'm from America."
he's also a stage actor, and he does musicals and stuff. And he was in what was it? He was he was in X-Men 2, playing Nightcrawler.
No way, really?
Yeah.
Wow, Nightcrawler looked young, and that guy looked young in that '80s movie, so I figured he was old now and crotchety.
Well, he's probably about 40 now.
Oh, that's a good point.
But yeah, he used to do sort of writing and directing and sort of doing some stage comedy with the Scottish actor called Forbes Mason, and they did a sitcom together in Scotland called The High Life, which is actually the campus TV show ever conceived by man.
Was there
Ever,
a lot of
ever,
pot
ever,
smoking
ever,
in it?
ever, ever. No, no, no. No, camp as in very, very stereotypically and codedly gay.
Oh, is
And
he gay?
no, he's bisexual. Well, he's pansexual. Though ironically at the time, I think Forbes Mason is straight. No, Alan Cummings bisexual or pansexual, sorry. But at the time,
Pansexual sounds like something that you would order at a restaurant.
well,
What would you like to know? I have the pansexual. Oh, yes, that's very good. It's big enough to split. Oh, is it? Honey, do you want some?
I would
Oh,
love
I
some
love
pansexual.
Sorry, anyone who may have been offended by the use of pansexual as a kind of pan-fried noodles analogy.
It just basically means that they like, bisexuals like men and women, pansexuals like anyone, men, women, or in between, depending on who they are.
Oh yeah, I know because I know what the prefix pan means because I took Latin.
Whenever I came across it, I always thought I remember a few years ago there was sort of a fight over what it should be called, and I preferred the alternate version of the name, which was omnisexual, but it
That
never
sounds
took.
awesome. That sounds like you're like a sexual villain on a Saturday morning cartoon show. I am omnisexual. All of you will have sex with me.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it's so much better of a word for it. But
Again, I'm sorry if you claim that label and you are offended. Please write the show and let us know.
but the High Life is so very very camp. Interestingly, Alan Cumming was married to a woman at the time, and then it's only lasted one season, which in the UK is 6 episodes, and then immediately those two guys never worked with each other again, and they went off. And Alan Cumming was in like GoldenEye and a bunch of other stuff. Forbes Mason became a semi-serious playwright.
So they were kind of like almost Fry and Laurie.
Almost, it's like it never quite took off, but they were Scottish, and Alan Cumming then broke up with his wife, and both him and his wife have only been dating people of the same sex ever since.
Really? Well, that's interesting.
So, what the fuck did they do to each other?
I don't know, but must have had like fun stories to tell friends.
Yep. And his wife, who was the ex-wife, was the English woman in the Deep Blue Sea.
Oh, that's cool.
Yep. Saffron Burrows. She is, I believe, now married or in a relationship with the Harry Potter's evil aunt.
Wow, British cinema is like 90210. But anyway, we've talked over long about Alan Cummings' sex life and The Wizard of Oz, because guess what time it is?
Is it
And it's not Germans.
timeout time?
No, it's time for Nano War. Badoo, badoo, badoo.
Ah, we have Lamento Erotico. Enjoy. Okay, and we're back now with added dubstep in the background because people are playing really loud music near Omega.
Well, just more, well, not. I guess kind of loud. My neighbors, they have they're dropping the bass, as it were.
Yeah.
So it's like oh yeah, it's like the dubstep edition.
Yeah, if you ever saw the Green Porno review or or if you see the upcoming Dead Shit review, that's the sort of thing we were dealing with when we were trying to film. But it came out okay.
Yeah, I mean it's their right. I mean it's not excessive. It's not annoying me. So, well, I mean it kind of is, but it's their right to play music.
Yes.
It's America. They have the right to play music loud in the apartment building. Gays. So I think it just might be time for Giovanni's trivia fact. Giovanni, are you here? Yeah, sorry about that, boss. I was tapping my claw against the wall, hoping that the neighbors would stop that, but it wasn't working.
Oh,
Oh, dear.
I don't think they could hear you over the noise, Giovanni.
Your bravery is admirable. Thanks, I know. So, today I thought it would be Mammal Appreciation Day, and I would share a trivia fact about mammals. And what mammals do we love more than cats? Cats and kittens. The internet is lousy with them. I can't go to YouTube without tripping over kittens. I mean, like, figuratively speaking, but did you know that litters of kittens can have more than one father? It's true, that's right. Those kittens were born together might only be half brothers and half sisters. Why does this happen? Well, unlike humans, a litter of kittens doesn't start out with a single fertilized egg splitting off. It's more of a clusterfuck. I mean,
Oh, very
mammals.
good word play there, Giovanni.
So, I will see all of my adoring fans later because, unbeknownst to you, to humans, I have a fan club. Just saying.
Well, if you do have a fan club, then I hope they send you some fan art because it'd be wonderful to put on the show.
Totally. If you want to draw a lobster and draw me correctly, not like, a spider, totally write the show. Bye everybody. He's in a good mood. Probably because you haven't tried to kill him recently.
Well, let's get him into a false sense of security and then you can kill him, you know? It's
I don't want to kill my sidekick. I like him. I like lobsters. Thank you. You're welcome.
So, have you put up the picture that my mum created of Giovanni?
No, I can't think of where to hang it, and I'm paranoid about hanging pictures now because the map in my room fell off the wall in the middle of the night. Well, that was because the frame is cheap and crappy and it bent, but that's not the point. Besides, if I'm going to be moving out in 3 months anyway, I don't want to hang pictures. But it's in my room right on top of the dresser.
Okay. Have you at least got it, like, so you can see it? Like maybe leaning against a wall or something?
It's propped up.
Oh, that's good. That's fair enough. I've got a couple of things which I haven't put up on the wall because I want to put them up wherever we end up living, whenever that is. I have like a Ninja the Mission Force poster, and have um, I have some fan art from Hagen, which I've framed and I've got it ready to put up, but I haven't put it up yet.
Well, I have, in this room, I have all the stuff that's usually up, but I also have that, for those of you who don't know, Mikey Insanity was at our wedding, and at MagFest, he brought us both a framed picture from the wedding.
Yes, he
And
did.
I still have yours because you forgot it.
I
But
did. I apologize. I don't know if you listen to this show, Mikey, which you probably don't, but I'm so sorry. I forgot it existed. Oh, I'm so sorry.
what's on my desk, honey? I'm keeping it for you, but my one is on the speaker right next to the TV, right next to Kipper's chair.
Well, that's nice. And M. Cypher, if you're listening to this, my the picture you drew of me, and gave to me at MagFest is actually it's just slightly above head height. If I'm facing my computer where I do my writing, and if I turn 90 degrees to the right, I can see it.
Well,
Yep.
so yeah, someday, we're thinking maybe 2024 or something like that. We may have an apartment together. So, yeah, there you go.
You'll have to get used to calling it a flat.
I'll call it a flat. Honey, I'll call it whatever the hell they want me to call it in England if it means that I'll get to actually live in the same apartment with you.
You'll have to understand what a poppadoms are.
You told me they're those Indian thingies.
Yeah, and you can either get them sort of ready to eat, or you can get the ones which are superior, where you have to sort of put them into some oil and fry them.
What is it with you guys and frying everything in oil?
Mm. But it's a bit like they're a bit like across a nacho and the prawn crackers we tried.
Prawn crackers, not my favorite thing.
Well, I really like them, although the homemade prawn crackers are never as good as the ones that you get in takeaways.
Well, I think I might like the takeaway version better because the ones that we had were just had this heavy, horrible oil taste because we made them ourselves.
I think you might prefer poppadoms in restaurants and things then, because the ones you make at your house, you're made pretty much the same way. You just get a bunch of oil and you throw them in there. You throw them in like two at a time because they're the size of dinner plates,
Ugh.
and they're just go.
And like after we made fish and chips, the whole house smelled like oil. I felt like vaguely sick for days afterwards just from the smell.
Everyone would be so lucky to have a house that smelled like oil.
Well, no one wants that.
Honey, you're gonna have to get used to the UK. Everyone wants their house to smell like oil.
Why? For punishment?
Because oil is the best.
No, it's not. You don't have Bath and Body Works over there. Oh no! all of my happy scent like electric plugins aren't going to work because of UK stuff. Do you guys have anything comparable?
Yeah, you've got comparable sort of things. Yeah, you'll be able to find, buy new stuff like that. Plus you will be, there's converters and stuff that will allow you to use things like that, I
I
think.
don't think it's very safe to plug like, a Bath and Body Works or like, Glade plug-in into an adapter. I think I think that might not be smart.
Fair enough. But you will find, similar-ish things around in the UK.
Well, I don't see. I was worried I wouldn't because when we went to Bath and Body Works, you called it the bread and circus shop and made fun of all the scents.
And I maintain you'll probably have less variety in the UK version, but there are shops like that exist.
Well, isn't I know Crabtree and Evelyn is in London because that's what the sign on the outside of the one in Columbia Mall says, and
Uh,
they have things like that.
them not come across, but there's a couple of shops that do stuff, honey. You'll be fine.
Okay, I'm an American. I need to be surrounded by several trademarked scents at all times.
Yes, indeed.
I should just shut up and tell the bookstore story, shouldn't I?
I think everyone wants to hear it because the bookstore stories are why people come to listen to this podcast.
It is. They're like, if only I could find out more about what it's like to work at a large chain bookstore. And I'm not, again, I don't, bring the name of my company into it because I probably shouldn't. But, like, people, ever since Borders went out of business, people come up to us, be like, I heard you're going out of business. Oh, that's not true. Well, that's what I heard. I read it in the newspaper. So, when's everything going on clearance? It never is. This location is not closing, at least this week at all. Yeah, but I mean, you're going out of business, right? Because Amazon's better than you, right? I'm like, then did you come here? Go away. It's so obnoxious.
Yeah, they should make sure they got their details right first.
Like, if you knew that an HMV near you was not closing, but others were, would you go in there and be like, "So I heard you're closing. When's everything going on clearance?" And like all the the traumatized HMV employees would be like, "We don't want to talk about it." You're like, no, but why does your company suck? When do I get to buy everything for cheap? You wouldn't do that, would you?
Well, if I thought that the shop was closing down, then I would go. If it found it wasn't on sale, I might inquire about stuff if I honestly thought that it was closing down. But
Yeah,
like the HMV in Derry has closed down or it is closing down, and I went there during the sale. I bought a bunch of stuff, but also I signed their petition to try and keep it open, which will not succeed, I'm quite sure, or has not succeeded.
well, I mean, I know. When I went to when Borders in Columbia closed, I went and I was really pleased because all of their sociology books were like 80% off because who buys that except me? And that's where I got you that. I got you a book there. I got the book from that Bazaar magazine,
Oh, yes,
and I
the
got your dad the Lost States book, as I recall.
Lost States book was really cool.
But anyway, this bookstore story. Today is going to be kind of like a multi-pack of stories because today I want to focus on a topic of regulars. And regulars can be cool. Like, there's always that one customer that comes in and they're like, hey, any good mysteries today? And you're like, well, we just got this one in. And they'll be like, oh, wonderful, that's great. Or, like they stop and chat. They're like, how's your husband doing? And if you're a bookseller with a husband, you say, oh, he's great. And, like you have your favorite customers, and that's cool. Mine is a guy that comes in, and he comes in every Saturday and Sunday morning, and he gets a large Godiva hot chocolate, and sometimes a scone if he's feeling adventurous. But he's just so nice and wonderful. He's one of my favorites. But sometimes you get the regulars that you really wish they weren't so regular,
Hmm.
or you get the regulars that really kind of have a screw loose. Okay, all of the screws loose. And today we're going to talk about some of them. And these come from my first store, where we had this woman who we called the Coffee Lady. And the Coffee Lady was either very, very, very addicted to terrible drugs, severely anorexic, or she had some kind of horrible disease because she was so thin you could see the outline of her skull, you could see like all of her bones. And she would come in with old cups from she would come in with old cups from Starbucks and say, oh, I got this coffee here, so I want a refill, because we did refills. And we would point out that not only is that coffee cup not from us, it's also many months old and looks to be growing stuff, but she would always try to scam all these large coffees out of us. And she would come up to to customer service, and one time she came up to my manager, and this was 10 minutes after we closed. We were trying to politely say, "You need to leave now." And she came up and she says, "Do you have difficult conversations?" Which is a book. And before I could stop myself, I thought, "No, ma'am, only with you." And I started snickering, and I like lunged into fiction, and my manager gave me a look. But the coffee lady would also either meet with someone who was very close to her or someone who was her therapist in the cafe and have like loud therapy sessions in cafe. And the 5 minute "okay, we're closing" announcement was her cue to then immediately spill at least one or two large coffees and then come and ask for refills because they spilled. And then we eventually stopped seeing her. So I'm hoping that she went on to better things, and I'm hoping that she didn't die or something. And then another regular well, a family of regulars that we had at my first store, I called the gypsies. They were not any kind of gypsy in any kind of way ethnically, but I just called them the gypsies, and they were horrible. They would come in on a Sunday usually, and they would set up camp in the children's department. They would open merchandise, they would open board games and play them, and then we would mention, you need to pay for that. Like, yo, yeah, I'm totally going to buy it. And then they put it back behind another one. They would literally clear out literally clear out a section of magazines and bring them back. They once made our newsstand lead cry, but we couldn't ever really kick them out because they had a member card. So when they did actually buy stuff, they would drop a few $100s. But ooh, those gypsies. And let's see who else. Oh, there was Cancer Lady. And Cancer Lady got her name because she would get in the habit of coming in really late and starting a very complicated return transaction like 5 or 10 minutes before close, and where I had this and I returned this on this day, but then I need to return this because that, and then I want to return that one again, and I get something with store credit, and then she would just leave the transaction while the manager was doing it up and browse, literally sometimes for a half an hour. And she got her name because Christian, our floor lead, finally approached her and said, "Ma'am, you need to leave. We've been closed for 20 minutes." And she just turned to him and said, "I have cancer, and just kept shopping. And whether or not that's true, we don't know. We called her Cancer Lady. And she eventually disappeared. So that's just some of the... Oh, and there was Eric at my second store. And Eric was harmless, but he had some issues. And sometimes he would bring his acoustic guitar into cafe and start playing, which we didn't really mind, but it really pissed everybody else off. But he also, he was a quote-unquote writer, and he would write and self-publish these horrible, horrible books that he would give us for presents, and we always kept one in the back room to do dramatic readings of. Yeah. And that's my story for today.
Sounds like you have your fair share of eccentric people.
Yeah. And that's only the ones I could think of the most off the top of my head. I'm sure I'll think of more an hour after recording. Be like, oh, I should have talked about so-and-so.
I want to go back in time and invent a time machine just so I can undo this great wrong.
Or the lady that came up to my friend Liz and said, "I need a book with pictures of fairies." And she's like, "Oh, okay." And gave her, like the Brian Stroud book and whimsical illustrations. And she goes, "No, like photographs, like in their natural habitat." And it's like, hey.
Cottingley fairies.
We get some people, like the amount of things that people don't know in real life is staggering. Staggering.
Someone who's...
Oh, like just yesterday, this woman came up to me. We do provide free Wi-Fi. And she said, "How do I get on the Wi-Fi? I don't know how to do it." And she had a little netbook. And I said, "Oh, well, here." And I said, "Bring up your network connections." And I showed her, "Okay, this is ours, connect to this. And you have to accept our terms and conditions, which are basically don't commit crimes or try to run a business off of our Wi-Fi, etc. No pirate." And so, you have to click, "I accept the terms and conditions," and then you can do what you want. So I said, "Okay, well, you need to accept our terms and conditions, so just open your web browser." She goes, "Well, how do I do that?" I said, well, what do you use? Do you use Internet Explorer? Do you use Firefox? Do you use Chrome? Do you use Opera? "Well, I don't know. How do I know that?" I said, "Well, what program do you use to browse the Internet?" "Well, I just go on the Internet." I said, "Okay, show me what you click to make the Internet happen." And she said, "This." And she pointed to the desktop icon for Internet Explorer. "Okay, Internet Explorer, we'll open that." But she was like freaking out. And she's like, "How do I know that? I'm like, "It's your browser. It's the pro. Oh, God." And so I clicked it for her. She goes, "Okay, great. Thank you so much." And I was like, "Bye."
Well, people who don't... The way that computers are set up, they're set up to be so easily used that if you don't know what you're doing, it's still you're still able to make things work. You don't actually need to know how the internet works in order to make the internet work. The So I don't think that one was entirely crazy. Like
It wasn't crazy. It was just odd.
like
Like, cause she was like started to panic.
well, the panicking is a bit strange, but the idea that there are things which I don't understand about the internet and other things which I use on a semi-regular basis that people who know more about it would think is ridiculous.
I guess that's a good point. Like, I mean, I learned more things, science-wise from watching MythBusters. I'm always like, oh, I always wondered how that worked.
Sorry, I was just going to point out that people who are reasonably intelligent people are capable of coming up with rather unexpected and insane sort of gaps in their knowledge or their understanding. Like, I think it was roughly the time during one of my trips to yours on the way over, it suddenly struck me, why is it that, because the world's spinning, why is it that, one of the, trips east to west doesn't take much longer than the other? And it took me ages to work it out. I was just thinking to myself, trying to work out from the knowledge I have about why this might be, and then it suddenly struck me. The atmosphere moves with the Earth. If the atmosphere didn't move with the Earth, then we would all be shredded by the wind speed.
Oh yeah.
So it's like, that's a very, very obvious question. The answer is very obvious.
I still want to know how you can't take something that's on fire and bring it down to absolute zero and freeze fire. I
Because
think that would be cool.
it would be very cool, but fire's not a thing. It's not a physical. It's not a.
The flames are because the flames are plasma because it's solid, liquid, gas, plasma.
But it's
Right?
but it can't be frozen because it's not one. It's not a quote unquote thing that can be
It's not something. It's not something that has a form.
yeah. It's just one of those things that it can't happen. But
Oh,
but
but it'd be cool if it did. You could add like fire ice.
it would be very cool. That actually happened in one of the X-Men movies. Oh, that happened in one of the X-Men movies. Iceman froze one of Pyro's fires.
Yeah, but I'd want to have like. See, I'm like this about science. Like, I really annoyed my chemistry teacher. I don't remember if we've talked about this. I don't think that we have. Because like I would chemistry was difficult for me because I'm really bad at math. I only really got as far as algebra 2, and that was kind of a stretch. Like I like geometry because you would have to prove things are congruent or non-congruent. I like that part. It's very logical. But like chemistry was horrible. And my teacher, Mrs. Hamaka, she kind of hated me. And so we'd be sitting there and we'd be talking about things and stuff. And all of a sudden I'd raise my hand and she'd be like, yes, 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 Amanda, what is it? I'd be like, okay, so Mrs. Hamaka, if you had like a log, right, and you heated it up, heated it up, heated it up, would it eventually like melt? Like it would go from solid to liquid, it'd be liquid log. And she's like, well, no, that wouldn't happen because eventually it would become so hot it would oxidize. It would start to combust. And I said, yeah, but what if you heated up really hot in a vacuum where there was no oxygen so it couldn't burst into fire? Would you get liquid log then? And she's like, eventually, yes, that it would start to break down into its trace elements. Like, that'd be cool. And she was like, mm-hmm. Like, she wasn't face palming, but she was thinking about face palming really loud.
Like my version of that in school, it's my hypothetical that I asked the science teacher about that I would quite like to see, but I know it's actually impossible. Is what would a person with two Y chromosomes and no X chromosome look like?
How would you? I don't think you could viably come to term.
Yeah, I know it's physically impossible. It's a bit like the freezing fire idea, but it's something that I asked about and think that if hypothetically it could happen, it would be quite interesting to see.
They'd be horribly deformed. That poor soul.
Would they definitely?
Probably. I mean, I'm sure there's a reason why the chromosomes are. I know you can have extra ones.
Yeah,
But
there's.
I don't. I'm. If someone, hey, if anyone's listening knows this, please comment somewhere, either on the PME forums or the Hagen Facebook or the Omega Facebook. Let us know why this can't happen because now I'm like, I know that there must be a reason, but I don't know what it is.
Well, all human life at the baseline is female. That it's the X chromosome is the baseline. The Y chromosome is pretty much a mutation from that.
Oh God, honey, why did you say that? Reddit just exploded. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not on Reddit, so.
Well, fuck Reddit. Fuck Reddit without any consent because they don't give a shit about that shit.
I was being funny.
I know. I just want to yell at Reddit. But But yeah, I realized my question, as a young person, it was an interesting question. It doesn't actually have an answer that's real, but as a extra non-reality based answer, it would be a bit interesting.
That's a good point.
But my thing about the flying from America to Europe and the spin of the Earth and things. What by mentioning that story, all I just wanted to indicate was smart people and average intelligence people are capable of having severely comical gaps in their knowledge, and so this lady might have been pretty smart, but
Just had a moment.
yeah, and
No, I did that once. Oh, I was helping clear a cafe in my when I was working at my first store, and the honey bear, the little plastic bear that we keep honey in, was all disgusting. So I was wiping it off with hot water and stuff to melt the honey, and then I would put it back, and I turned and I said to my friend Laura, I was like, "Do we still use bees for honey, or can we make that synthetically now?" And she goes, "Think about what you just said," and I'm like, "Well, you could have synthetic honey made from robot bees. Shut up."
well, I don't know. I don't think that you were quite as silly as as you think there, because they have managed to create in the laboratory um, synthetic meat that has been made by growing meat by itself, and it costs a hell of a lot to do. But I got the feeling that in the future it's going to replace, for the vast majority of humankind, meat that is grown in animals, because in the future I think it'll be a lot cheaper.
Oh yeah, I mean
So it's not a
you know,
ridiculous idea, the
I
idea that you could have
it's
synthetically grown honey. You
well, a lot of times people just like you say something and you're like, that sounded kind of stupid out of context.
It might have
Like,
sounded a bit stupid, but I maintain that while it is a mistake, because I don't think there is synthetic honey, I don't think it was as big as a mistake as she thought it was, because her reaction sounds like it's logically impossible when I don't think it is. Although,
although well, this was this was in 2004,
ah,
so it was kind of a bit less logical then.
but if there's anyone out there who knows about scientific work to artificially grow honey, I would be fascinated to hear about it. Although I doubt it's happening, because I sort of pay attention to these science things, so I think I'd probably hear about it.
Let us know. Write the show.
Yeah.
Oh, speaking of things that people blurt out, so I was hanging out with some folks this on Friday, and some people that I knew and some I didn't know, and this one girl, she was white, she was Caucasian with kind of like light brown hair, just to give you a baseline of her. And I didn't hear what started this conversation, but I overheard from the other room her saying, "Well, I know all about that because I'm Black Irish." And I thought to myself, "Oh, my wife is going to go crazy when she hears this." And then later on, we were talking, and my friend's son was like, "Oh, how's Hagen doing?" I was like, "Oh, she's doing good. I'm hoping we'll be able to see each other soon." And this girl says, "Oh, well, where does your wife live?" I said, "Oh, she lives in Northern Ireland." And she goes, "Oh, I don't know much about Northern Ireland. I know a lot about regular Ireland though, because I'm Irish, you see." And I was like, "Really no."
She picked it up via osmosis. Um, yeah, this is going to be a little controversial. Now, this is just me speaking for myself and from talking to people who are also from Ireland.
You
Being
guys hate when we do that, don't you?
being an American and saying that you're Irish because you have like one ancestor who came from one village and you've never been to Ireland, and like your parents or whatever weren't from there, you're not Irish. You're American. Embrace being American. You have a fine country. Just stop trying to make yourself feel more interesting in yourself by taking over someone else's identity. And I
You
speak
know,
as someone who doesn't actually identify particularly as Irish.
that's true. You're more like British hodgepodge.
Yeah, like Northern Ireland, it means I'm automatically a dual citizen of pretty much of Ireland or the UK, and my family is Scottish, so by default, I sort of end up feeling more British. But, they've got no problem with people identifying me as Irish. If they want to identify Irish by island rather than political entity, that's cool. Um, but yeah, um,
Well, I had a friend who her birthday was March 17th. So she said, "I'm honorary Irish because my birthday is St. Patrick's Day." I said, "No, you are Italian. In fact, you are so Italian." Very Italian. She would always roleplay Irish characters too.
And
Okay,
that,
not always, occasionally, but you know what I mean.
then if she met an actual Italian person, they'd be going, "You're not fucking Italian! You're a stupid Yank who eats pineapple on pizzas! Prego!"
Oh no, she hated pineapple on pizzas.
Okay, so
But
she was
I
Italian.
told you about the one roommate that I used to have down in D.C. who again, well, she was fair, so I think there was either, French or English blood in her at some point. But she was very fair. She had blondish brownish hair, and her whole thing, and she said, well, I'm probably British Isle stock. I was like, yeah, you look it, because she was adopted, so she doesn't know what her birth parents' makeup was. And she said to me, well, people have told me that I look very Pictish. And I was like, oh, really? Because we play the White Wolf games, and, in Werewolf the Apocalypse, the Picts were they were the kinfolk to this lost race or lost tribe called the White Howlers. And I thought to myself, you just want to be special. And then I told you about it, and your reaction was priceless.
Well, first of all, I'm not entirely sure if I pointed this out during our previous conversation or not, but the White Howlers being Pictish is rather ludicrous in itself, because the Picts were, we don't have like first-hand thing about the Picts, because obviously they stopped really being a separate. They were sort of absorbed into the Gaels, 1,400 years ago. But
oh, honey, I did pre-order on Nook. There's a book coming out later on in the month about fortifications and buildings of the Scottish Picts in the Dark Ages. That looked cool.
Oh, cool.
And I was like, I'll read this and I'll impress my father-in-law, because he'll be like, you knew about it? I'm like, I read it in a book, sir.
But the Picts, supposedly, out of all of the peoples of the UK, or the modern UK, they were dark. They had they're supposed to be apparently they're supposed to look very Mediterranean, have very dark hair, black hair. They weren't redheads, they weren't freckly, supposedly. They looked like they were possibly from Spain.
And I hope we run into this girl at some point, and I really hope I can turn the conversation to that coming up.
And considering how dark they were in comparison to most other people on the thing, apparently, makes the choice of name for the White Howlers even funnier.
Well, I don't write for White Wolf, so I can't vouch for that, but
yeah, it's, honestly, it's almost to say that I have no right to tell anyone else how to identify. That would be, entirely shitty. My own rule for myself is, unless your parents are from there, or your grandparents, then you really have no right to say that you're from there, unless you move there and become a citizen.
Well, I'll tell you what, ever since I've known you, I used to like to listen to Celtic folk music. I don't listen to it anymore because I feel really guilty. Like a Planet song will come on my iPad, I'm like, oh, I better skip this.
You could listen to the music, honey.
I feel really guilty now.
My dad is such a big sort of Siamophile, big fan of Thailand, that every time he goes there every couple of years with my mum, and he brings back masses of CDs of traditional Thai music. He's got the Thai national anthem as his ringtone. He wears T-shirts with just with Thai stuff all over them.
I know, but I feel guilty because
I got the feeling if they were 10 years younger, my parents would try to emigrate to Thailand. It's Americans aren't the only one who do this.
I know, but I used to tell people, I'm Irish, Polish, and Russian, because and see, I can almost, because my mom's dad was born right after his parents came to this country. Apparently, I'll have to get clarification on that. So technically, if my mom wanted to, I researched the laws when I was first trying to figure out if I could move over to yours. Technically, if she wanted to, she could apply for and be granted Irish citizenship, Missy.
So if you get your mother through that, then you can sort of claim Irish citizenship through her.
Yeah, but that seems like an awful lot of work when the UK will just honor our marriage certificate, so.
Hopefully.
Besides, my mom might not want to be an Irish citizen. It sounds like a lot of work for her, too.
Well, I think that it would be pretty much a couple of forms, maybe some money, and a couple of plane tickets. As a backup plan, it does sound like it's viable.
Yeah, I don't know, but that seems a little shady. Like, they're gonna be like, wait a second, so your mom just became a citizen and now you wanna be like, like, no. No, we know what you're up to. Gay married person. I'm like, I'm sorry, sir.
I don't know. Ireland is not overpopulated. I got the feeling that if they prove that you were trying to commit some sort of financial benefit fraud out of it, then you get in trouble. But beyond that, I don't think that they'd have any issue with it. Like Ireland has a smaller population today than it did before the potato famine.
I read that somewhere. But yeah, but they don't have gay marriage, do they?
No, but either they are bringing in or they have civil partnerships, and civil partnerships typically will mean that they'll recognize the gay marriage as a civil partnership.
Oh, so the old, hey, look, EU, we're behaving ourselves. Look, they can be civil partners, but we'll still be horrible. Amen.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Although, I hate to tell you this, it's time for the dictionary. We have talked over long about everything in the world.
Everything and nothing.
Yeah, this is like the Seinfeld of podcasts. What do they talk about on Lesbian Talk? Lesbians? No. Things and stuff. Yeah.
We intend to start off talking about one thing, and we talk about something else, because, like, Wizard of Oz turned into me talking about Alan Cummings' sex life, his career.
We should totally call this episode Alan Cummings' Sex Life. To find out, I'd be like, what? Alright, so I'm holding the Oxford American Dictionary, which on the back, its title is In Defense of Good English, which probably will make English people laugh. Honey, what page should I turn to?
All lucky sevens.
777?
Yep.
It doesn't go that far.
Oh, 555.
It does, hold on. I didn't realize it. I get the way back. This can go nowhere good. Alright, 1 or 2?
2.
Alright. Out of 23.
7.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Volplane. To glide in an airplane. Volplane. To volplane.
That sounds like a character from Mortal Kombat Conquest.
It does. Volplane, get over here.
Yeah. Wow. So we're just going to talk about hang gliding and shit.
Talking about gliding in the airplanes. Next week here on Lesbian Talk.
Do-do-do-do-do-do-do.
I've been your host, the Omega.
I'm Demon DeHagen, and we hope in a couple of weeks, to have the winner of the wonderful eBay thing for the guest host.
Yeah, we do have some interviews lined up. They're actually going to be waiting until we can be in the same room at the same time.
Yeah.
Just to eliminate time zone issues. So pray that happens, because if it doesn't, we are shit out of luck.
Yeah, and although one of the interviews is actually with someone based in the UK, so...
Oh yeah, that's true.
It's just to minimize the Skype problems of having
5 people.
3 things at once. So we'll try to organize all of those for whenever I'm over there.
And Kippers is still asleep.
Always asleep. And Giovanni?
He went away. I think he went out to dinner.
What's his favorite zoo animal?
I haven't asked him.
Okay. Hopefully he'll tell us by next week.